Welcome guys. We're going to do a little knife safety. So we're going to go through a few different things this morning, and the first is to talk about some of the different rules that we have to remember when we're in cubs when we're using a knife. And these are safety rules. We call them the 10 Commandments of Knife Use. We're going to go over them, and then we're going to show you in practical terms how to use all the different types of knives. So we're going to show the basics of how to open and close a knife, what the rules are for how to use a knife when you're a cub, and also what some of the different types of knives are that you might use when you get a little bit older into scouts. Okay? So the types of knives that we're going to look at today to start with are the types of knives that cubs are allowed to use. Those are folding knives. That means it's a knife that closes. So an example of a folding knife would be this knife. See, it folds in half and closes. Okay? Nope. It must also have a safety. This one has a safety. Okay, and so we're going to show you how to use one of those. There's another common type of folding knife that you've probably seen before. Does anybody know what one of these is called?
Swiss Army knife.
Right. Okay. This is sort of the traditional one that most people have seen. It doesn't have a safety on it, so we don't use this one for our cub troop, although some cub troops might. This is one that does have a safety on it, which is this little button here. And so some cubs will use that, and you'll also notice it doesn't have a point, so it makes it a little bit safer as well.
What's
okay?
the button?
The button is a safety, but I'll show a couple of reasons why we don't really encourage cubs to use this knife either, because of the way the safety is built. And there's a third type of folding knife with a different kind of safety, and I'll show you that as well. That one's yours. Okay, so those are some folding knives. There's also what are called fixed blade knives, and these you can't use until you're in scouts, but they're also very common as well. Okay, so we're going to show you how to safely open and close those, but before we do that, there are a couple of rules that we need to know. Okay, the first rule in cubs is that when you're going to open a knife, you declare, "Opening a knife," so everyone around you can hear. And then when the knife is still closed, you're going to check in a 360-degree circle at arm's length that there's no one in there. That's your safety zone. We call that in cubs your blood zone. Why? Because you could get cut if you're in that zone. So you say opening a knife, and you check 360 degrees with the knife closed before you open it. Okay? Then it's safe to open. But if there is anyone that comes within that blood zone while you're cutting, you immediately stop. Okay? Because it's not safe at that point. So, what do we do before we open a knife?
Declare opening knife. Declare opening knife.
Yep. And then what do we do?
Blood zone. Blood zone.
Yeah, which is
Blood's so cool.
arm's length, 360 degrees. Okay, that's just to make sure that everybody stays safe, okay? So those are two things. There's also something before you can get your knife safety that you're going to have to know all of. It's called the 10 Commandments of Knife Safety, okay? And I'm going to go through them with you one at a time. They're all really easy to remember because they're all common sense. Okay? The first and the most important thing is a knife is not a toy, okay? A knife is always dangerous. Oh, thank you. A knife is always dangerous, okay? A knife can always cut you. It's not a toy. You have to be careful with it. Okay, the second is what we already talked about, that you always have a safety circle around you in your blood zone, and that if someone walks in that zone, that you stop cutting. The third is something that we're going to do a demonstration of, and that's to always cut away from your body, okay? And so we're going to show you that in length in a second. The third is that you take care of your knife, that you never do anything that's going to dull it, like for instance, banging it against a rock, or putting it in the fire, or things like that that would harm the knife or make it dull. We never use our knife to throw or chop. There are special kinds of knives that are used for throwing knives, and unless you're a professional knife thrower, nobody's going to be throwing knives, okay? These knives are not made for throwing, and you could hurt yourself or someone else very badly if you did that. So no throwing knives and no chopping. This isn't a kitchen knife. They're not made for chopping either, so none of that. The number 6 is that we want to keep our knife clean. As cubs, we're going to be using these knives to cut our food sometimes. Sometimes we're going to be using them to cut down trees. We're going to be using them for all kinds of different purposes. So it's important that we always keep our knife clean, because you don't want to get germs from it or basically have it not well taken care of. Whenever you're moving between 2 points or not using your knife should be closed and it's in its sheath or in your pocket. Okay? Most of the modern knives have a clip on the front. For these types of knives, you don't really need a sheath. The sheath is like this. Okay? That's a sheath. Okay? But most of these modern knives have a clip, so it can go in your pocket like that. That is an acceptable way to carry a knife. Okay? But when you're not using your knife, say you're cutting down a tree over here, a branch for a marshmallow stick, and then you're going to go to the campfire to use it, you don't keep your knife out in between. You properly close your knife, and if it's one that uses a sheath, it goes in its sheath, and if it's a clip knife, it gets clipped on your pocket. This is for 2 reasons. It's 1, safety, and it's 2, to prevent you from losing your knife. The most common way people lose knives is they're cutting something and they set it down and they go do something else and they forget that they've left their knife there, okay? You don't want to lose your knife. It's the most embarrassing thing that could happen to a cub, I think, is losing your knife. So we don't want to climb or run, obviously, with a knife open, okay? Number 9, this is very important. It's an easy one to know, sometimes a hard one to remember. When you pass someone a knife, you don't pass it point first. You hold the back of the knife and you hand it to them. Okay, the last one is there's nothing more dangerous than a dull knife. Okay, you want to have your knife sharp at all times. So those are the basic rules. We're going to be going over those again later at Cubs, and you'll have to know all 10 of those 10 commandments before you can get your knife permit. Okay, so with that said, we're going to show how to properly open a folding knife. So a folding knife, we use what's called a bear claw grip. Okay, I don't know why it's called that, but that's what the name is. Okay, so you can see that the blade opens out and closes in, right? You don't want to get your fingers in between that when you're closing it, and it obviously won't open if your hand is over the blade. So you take your hand in like a bear claw and you grab the edges. So this is your bear claw, and the bear claw grabs the knife. Okay? You're then going to turn the blade up or to the side, and you're going to grab onto the blade and you're going to twist it open. Okay? Now then, to close it, depending on the type of safety, still in the bear claw, so your hand is not in the way, you're going to manipulate the safety and close it like that. And how you manipulate that safety depends on the type of safety you have. The most common type is probably this type. This is a buck knife. The safety is this panel on the back, okay? The safety locks the blade open, so when the blade is open, now it won't close on your hand, okay? Whereas, for instance, this knife that doesn't have a safety, it closes on its own, okay? Now, why is that sometimes dangerous? If you're cutting like this, it can stick a little bit when you're when it's in the wood. So, for instance, you're cutting in and it gets caught, it will sometimes close, and you can get a cut on your finger. So this type of knife for guys who are learning, for cubs, we don't allow. You have to have a safety. So for this type of safety, when you're doing your bear claw, you're going to have to do it a little bit different when you're closing it, okay? With your bear claw, you're going to put your index finger, this finger, on the safety. You're going to bear claw on the bottom, and sometimes easier to do it like that. You're going to press and close, okay? But the whole time, you're not facing there. So you're going to press in your bear claw and close. Now, if it's a little bit hard to do, another thing you can do to make it a little easier is you can rest it on something so there's a little more stability. Sometimes it's easier if you're pushing this down on something and then go press and close. Okay? So you can hold the back of the blade with these two fingers, bear claw here, press and close. Okay? Okay, I'm going to show you this particular type of safety. See, there's a little piece of metal that bends in and clicks into place. I'm going to show, it's really hard to see, so I'm going to show really close, okay? There's another one like this, okay? And you see this part here? It's going to bend and snap into place. Okay. I'm not really keen on kids using these type of knives because to disengage the safety, you have to actually put your hand in a very dangerous place to do that. So with these, the safest way to do it is to get it started. See, it moved a little bit. As soon as it moves a little bit, then the safety is disengaged, and then you go to bear claw and close it. But you have to do something that's unsafe to get the safety on this, so they're not really recommended for starters. The other problem, I don't want to wreck your knife, but if I were to put pressure on the back of this, I could bend your safety without a lot of pressure. This is a third type of safety that we're going to show. This is a Benchmade knife, and they use a spring safety. Sometimes there's a second safety on the back. But with these, there's a spring here that's holding the safety in place. So while keeping a perfect bear claw, you can put the back of the knife into the palm of your hand. You put pressure down on the safety to disengage it and close. Perfectly. Stop, now open. Okay, show, and now show how to close.
In terms of safety for kids, that looks like it's the safest of all three mechanisms, is that right?
Yeah, I think this is the best safety because you can keep a full bear claw on the knife while engaging and disengaging the safety.
Okay.
There's a slightly different version of those, which is here, which has a second safety on it because it is called a spring assist knife. So there's a bit of tension on the blade to open it, which allows it to pop open quickly. But the basic safety mechanism is the same. However, there is also a rear safety that you can engage, so now it won't open.
Right.
So for carrying them in your pocket like this, they're generally viewed to be a little safer because it won't accidentally open on you when in your pocket. So you disengage that safety and then open. I'm setting a very bad example because my knife is dirty. But yep, there's this type. Yeah, so this is a version. I think this is a little bit safer version of this buck knife, but similar buck knife rear safety. So like that. This I'd actually reverse my bear claw so I could use my finger like that. But once again, you're using your index finger to disengage the safety to close. It's a beautiful knife.
Can you show us the big one?
This is the Swiss Army knife kind of safety knife. This one was actually, I think, made for the Scouts.
There is a Scout branded one exactly like that, yes.
I'm not keen on this knife, and I'll show you why. So this one you open, but look at where your safety is. Your safety, if you're holding the knife properly, you can engage the safety very easily while cutting. So it's not actually a very safe safety. And to close it, you have to, once again, put your finger in a dangerous place in order to
I bought those
disengage.
for my boys, and I noticed that really quickly, and I got rid of them.
So they're not. Swiss Army knives are famous for a reason. They're very practical. They contain a lot of tools, but they're not the safest cutting knives. In many respects, one of the safest types of knives is a belt knife because it's always open. You don't have to worry about opening and closing it. This is one type of sheath mechanism. Far more common for kids in scouting would be this type. I'm not keen on this sheath in particular because it's a Velcro. Velcro can sometimes fail. The snap ones are generally a little better. The sheath knives are something that we won't use until we're in Scouts proper. Okay, so going to show for cutting, you want to make sure that you are cutting away from your body. Okay, so your holding hand for is anyone here left-handed or everyone right-handed? You're left-handed? Okay, you're left-handed. So if you're left-handed, the thing you're going to cut, you're holding with your right hand, and your knife will be in your left hand. For the rest of you, it'll be the other way around. So your dominant hand
Same for right-handed.
Right. So your dominant hand will be holding the knife. Your other hand will be holding whatever it is you're going to cut. Okay.
Your good hand's holding what?
The knife. Your strong hand, the hand you throw a baseball with, is holding the knife, and the hand that you
this one.
the hand that you are holding the item with is your other hand. Okay. So you want to have your holding hand behind your knife hand. Why would you want that? Would this be safe?
No. No.
Because I'm going to cut myself.
If you cut that, you slip and then you cut your hand.
Right. So you want to make sure that your hand that you're holding with is behind you. Okay. And you're going to, okay, Marcus, can you just set down that stick, please? Okay. So we're going to hold, and then we're going to cut away from our body. Okay. So did you see how that actually, when it went through, and I cut that branch at the same time. If my hand was down there, I would have cut myself. Even though I was only going to cut that one, by the time it popped through, it went further. Okay, so you want to be careful that you're cutting away from your body. If you're sitting down, which is always a good idea, we're going to move these out of the way. Okay. If you're sitting, you also have to think about where your feet are. Is this safe?
No way.
Okay.
Is this...
You want to be cutting away from your body. So I would say the safest way is to have it to the side. So if you're right-handed, on the right side. If you're left-handed, on the left side, cutting away from your body. Now there are safe ways to do it between your legs, but that is more dangerous than doing it the side way, okay? Because you could possibly go into one of your legs. Okay? So we're doing this from the beginning. It's opening a knife, check your blood zone, open your knife, your holding hand behind your cutting hand, and cut. And cut. And cut. And put a nice point on it if we want for a marshmallow. Okay?
Or it could be a spear.
Well, I don't think we're going to be hunting any boars at Cub Camp. Okay, so there's an example of that. I'm going to show you cutting rope, and then we're each going to get a chance to try both. Okay, we're just going to cut a little bit of paracord,
Oh yeah, that's
which is just a line that you might use for stringing a tarp or for holding up a tent fly. So
or for bracelets and stuff.
For bracelets, exactly.
Or for woggles, the 32nd are really good at making these awesome woggles.
Oh, cool. So when we're doing this, the same principles apply, okay? So opening a knife, check our blood zone. Okay, we're clear. We're then going to open. And when we're cutting, we fold over to the point we're going to cut. So if we want to cut here, we're going to put the fold, the end of the fold, right where we're going to cut. Okay? Then going to put it in a safe direction. We're going to put our holding hand behind our knife hand and cut. Okay? So you make sure you're cutting your rope in exactly the right place by putting the fold right where you want to cut, holding it away, and you just have to put a little bit of tension on it and it'll pop right through. Like that. Okay? Do you have a really good grip with this hand? Really good grip with that one? Okay, cut. Perfect. Okay? So now pull down a little bit more and cut. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so now I'm gonna give you a piece of line. Don't close it yet. Okay, I want you to cut right there. So you put the cut point there. And slide it a little. Yeah. There, perfect cut. Okay. All right, now show me how to close. No, this one is right there. Okay, so we're gonna hold it bare claw and finger press. This has to get pressed in, so you have to press quite a bit harder. Okay.
Oh, like that.
There you go.
Oh, I understand.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Open.
Okay, pinch, close, and there you go. The last type I'm going to show you.
Last time.
Okay, so bear claw. How's a bear look? Bear is a claw. Alright, you're going to grip your knife in your bear claw, and you're going to open it. Okay, and to close it, you're going to do a bear claw again. In this case, with your finger on the safety. You're going to press the safety.
And the point is your fingers
close.
are always out of the way when you're doing the bear claw.
If your fingers are here, it's going to close. If your fingers are here, if your finger is there, it's going to get cut. So you want to keep your fingers out of the way to close. So open, close. Yeah. It's that one a lot of people do. Sometimes if you're trying to cut a tree, they'll cut like this. You'll get a lot of cutting injuries from that too. Okay?
Why couldn't you just turn it over?
Well, cut down like that, but some people like to cut in like this because it seems at the time easier because you're pulling up against a tree root. But that often results in cuts like this, where you get people getting a cut in the thumb or on the finger. Okay, it's intuitive. You'll feel like wanting to do it that way sometimes, but put a little bit of tension on it and then cut in. Okay. And as you cut, you'll open up a bit of a bigger, whoops, there we go. You'll open up a bit of a bigger hole, but you don't want to be cutting towards yourself, okay? Oh, that's maybe a little close to your leg. You might want to swing that around. Okay, perfect. That's great. So if it's not going, you can loosen off a little bit and slide the knife. Right.
Don't be afraid to put a bit of pressure on it.
Yeah.
And you should be cutting closer to the handle, not at the end of the blade.
Okay.
Oh, what I need is like.
There you go. Got her. Okay, and you may want to take your holding hand and put it a little bit closer to where you're cutting. Yep. That was a good one.
There you go.
Okay, well done. Okay, so now we're going to cut a line.
Hold on, Solomon. Solomon, stop.
Okay.
Blood circle.
Hold that there.
Blood circle. You're in his blood circle.
Perfect. First time.
Excellent. Okay, now show me how to close that knife.
It's a metal switch.
Okay. So get it started a tiny bit. Okay. Bear claw. Perfect bear claw. Closed. Perfectly
Good
safe.
work, buddy.
Well done. Matches, but you wanted to start a fire. You can
From flint against steel.